Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about the Xbox Series X and how it has been migrating from a PlayStation 4 to the Xbox. Now, before we even go into any details, I just want to call out that I'm not on either side of the console wars or anything like that. I own a Nintendo Switch, I own a Super Nintendo from back in the day, I own the original Xbox. I had a 360 back in the day, which I then sold and got a PlayStation 3. After the PlayStation 3, I got a PlayStation 4. And now, when the new consoles came out, I decided to get an Xbox Series X instead of PlayStation 5. I might still get a PlayStation 5 in a few years' time, who knows? So the main reason why I'm making this video is to highlight, how has my personal experience been coming from PlayStation to Xbox. Mainly, if you're a PlayStation user today and you're considering the Xbox a good way to go, just giving you a heads up of how my experience has been like, because there's some really great things about the new Xbox and there's also some really small and annoying things if you're used to the PlayStation today, which you'll probably notice, and it's only fair to give you a heads up, because I've noticed a lot of the reviews, they don't really touch based on some of these smaller details that I'm planning to go through here. So let's start off with the really good stuff if you're coming to Xbox, and that is the backwards compatibility. As you can see here, I'm a game collector. I have a lot of old original Xbox games. The original Xbox was the first console as a kid that I bought with my own money. I was super proud of it, and I really loved that experience. You had franchises like Halo coming out, and also the Forza Motorsport series. Which, if you're a racing fan, that was a great game coming out. So anyways, I have a lot of games, and some of these I can now actually play even from disc on this new console, which is great. And the same thing with the 360. As you can see, I have a lot of games for it. Whenever you go to a thrift shop or any kind of second-hand shop, you can often find 360 games really cheap. And it obviously has a huge catalog of games. And then the same thing with the Xbox One. For me, I never had an Xbox One, so there's a whole generation of games that have come out for that console. Now, obviously, we all know there weren't that many great exclusive titles compared to the PlayStation 4, but when you add up an entire generation, if you haven't had an Xbox One, you're gonna find some good titles in there. You can see here my collection, and again, I could pick this up really cheap before the console launched. Because you just go to second-hand shops and you can find all of these games really cheap now. So generally, backwards compatibility is such a huge plus. And for me, being a game collector, still playing original Xbox games, still playing 360 games that I didn't get to, and having the entire Xbox One collection that I still need to go through, the backwards compatibility is the main selling point for me. Now, it is worth noting though that especially if you look at the original Xbox games, there are a lot that are not supported. If you look at this collection here, only a couple or maybe 3 of the games here are supported. You can see them on the screen right now. It all gets better the further you go up in generations. So 360, obviously, a lot more games are backwards compatible, and the Xbox One, all the games are backwards compatible, except I think Kinect games. The second point I already highlighted with my game collection. You can effectively get really cheap games because you have one machine spanning across 4 generations now of games. So if you haven't played a lot of games, or you still have a lot of games in previous generations that you wanted to get to, you can now very cheaply just buy these old games. But if you don't care about buying digitally or buying physically secondhand old games, there's GamePass, which is my third point, why I love the Xbox, one of the huge pros right now. Being able to pay, kind of the same amount of money you pay for Netflix on a monthly basis and get access to all of these games is just really, really convenient. And especially, if you don't have a lot of games and you just get the console, being able to immediately get access to this entire library through GamePass, this is really amazing. The fourth point I wanted to raise is the performance. Just running any game on this machine has been really, really nice. Another pro is the quick resume feature. Now, you probably know all about this already, so I won't go into details, but being able to switch between games is really nice if you're playing a lot of different games at the same time. Now, it is worth highlighting here that yes, there's some really cool things that work with quick resume, such as the machine was fully turned off and it still remembers where all of your different games was. Even if you unplug the machine, it can still remember, but it is also quite flaky. you don't know when it's not gonna work. So you can't fully rely on the feature, unfortunately. Now, I do again think that they will improve this. They're gonna improve how the feature will work. They will probably improve the UX of it too, to let you know which games are maybe stored in memory. But as of today, you probably heard this too, it is not fully reliable, so you can't trust the feature. I do think they'll fix that. It's a great feature when it works. Another pro I want to walk through quickly here is that I personally really like the design. I think it's a minimalistic design. I think it looks great. It's actually, people say it's big. I think it's quite small. Maybe that's because I'm comparing it to the original Xbox. Or, I had the big fat PlayStation 3 back in the day. People also complain about it not looking great when you have it laying down. Yes, it does look better if you have it standing up. I personally, as you can see here, I can't have it standing up where my TV is. And again, I don't think it looks too bad laying down. And now we get into some smaller details. Another pro, which I discovered only maybe a few weeks after launch, is that you can actually install games from your phone. And the really cool thing is that you can install all of these games from your phone even if you don't own the game yet. So, why is that important? Let's say you're in a game shop somewhere and you're looking at a game because, like me, you're a physical collector. And you decide, hey, maybe you're gonna buy this game. And then you just pick up your phone and you go through the list, you find the game, and you start installing the game from your phone. And at home, your game is gonna start installing, and it's all good. By the time you get home, you put in the disc, the game is ready to go. So those were all my pros, and now I'm gonna go over some of the cons. The biggest issues I've had are around the controller. One of the main issues I'm having with the controller is button responsiveness, especially the Y button. I don't know why, and no pun intended, but it's not as responsive as all the other, A, X, and B, which means you really have to press it harder and you have to press it at a certain angle. Now, it's a really small detail, and for me, it's not enough to go and ask for a replacement because I've seen, many people have this issue, so I think it's a widespread issue. But it's a little issue that is just annoying because it's something so basic that should just work. The other issue I've noticed is around the headset input on the controller. Now, I use a Bose headset, a noise cancelling one. It's nice and comfortable. I use it for work as well, and it's always worked for every device. Now, with the Xbox controller, it does work. The sound is coming through. But for some really weird reason, if you turn on the noise cancellation, you get a lot of weird high-pitched ambient noise. And this is only when connected to the Xbox controller. So I have a feeling it's something, going on inside the controller that is, getting some kind of frequency amplified that shouldn't be amplified. I have no idea what's going on. And this might be, only related to my headset. But I do want to highlight it here because it's a pretty common headset. It's a Bose Quiet Comfort, I think 25. So I wanted to call it out. It's a weird, again, controller issue, just specific at least to my headphones and to the Xbox controller. And now to a really annoying, weird UX issue. But if you're coming from PlayStation, you'd be really surprised that when you play on the Xbox and you plug in the headset, you usually plug in the headset in order for you to start hearing your sound through your controller, so that it's quiet in the living room wherever you're playing. Now, the first time I plugged in the headset into the controller, I thought that's what's happening. You're switching the sound from the TV to the headset instead, but that wasn't the case. So actually the TV was still playing all the sound and I could hear the sound through the headset too. But obviously I couldn't hear the TV, so my girlfriend kind of asked, hey, are you joking with me? Why do you still have the sound on? It's late in the night. I thought I asked you to put the headset on, which I did, but I didn't know that the TV was actually still playing the sound. There's probably a reason why they thought of it. Personally, I think it's not the best thing to do. I think a lot of people, especially if you have the sound coming through on your headphones, you do want the TV to be muted at that point. I do understand if you just want the voice chat to come through your headphones. In that case, you still want the sound from the TV. I get that, that's fine. But in this case, the natural setup was you get the video game sound from your TV and you get the video game sound in your headphones. Unless there's a setting, and if there is, please let me know. I haven't found it. You gotta mute your TV manually. So I always, if I plug in the headphones, I'll have to put down the volume on the TV to 0, and then, everything is as it was in PlayStation 4. Weird issue. I hope they fix that in the future. Another quite annoying thing, again tied to the controller, is the light of the Xbox logo. Now, if you're playing in daylight, it's not going to be a problem. But if you're playing during night, the light is actually quite strong. I don't know if you can see it here, but if you push your thumb on the button, you can actually see the light coming through your thumb. That's how strong the light of the controller is. Now, again, I don't know why they did this, because to be honest, when you're playing in a dark room, the only thing lit up is basically your TV, maybe an ambient light somewhere next to it. It's really, really strong. Now, I know this is again just a little detail, but I've seen other people also complain about this since I think the previous generation of Xbox. What basically happens is whenever you get a cutscene in the game, you're gonna end up placing your thumb on the logo in order for it not to shine, or you're gonna turn your controller upside down for you not to be distracted by the light. I've seen other people do this. I'm personally probably honestly just gonna put tape on it, some kind of duct tape, just to cover it up. I don't care, that it'll look worse. It's just gonna be much more convenient not to have that light shining in your face. The other surprisingly bad thing with the controller, which I didn't expect first when I bought the machine, is that it still runs on AA batteries. Now, I remember with friends, like when the 360 was new, we were joking, why do they still use AA batteries? It's ridiculous. Why can't you just plug in the controller and charge it? Which we did with the PlayStation 3. And I'm surprised that still, with the generation coming out in 2020, they default to AA batteries with your controller. Now, I know some people like it. I honestly personally think it's outdated. You should just have rechargeable batteries. So I ended up getting the chargeable battery from Microsoft instead. Now, it turns out that was actually a bad choice. I think there are better choices. If you check, I think on Amazon, you can find like multiple packs with a charge station, which looks good and actually has a charge indication light. So go ahead and get those. Don't get the normal one by Microsoft. That would be my recommendation now after I bought it. Because one of the annoying things when charging your controller with Microsoft's own charge kit is there is no indication of charging on the controller. So there's no light showing, is it still charging? Is it not charging? Is it fully charged? Now, again, you have this light on the controller, which shines too bright when you're playing. You could have used that light on the controller to just indicate that it's charging. Something that the PlayStation 4 did. You always knew when you plugged in your controller that is it charging, is it not charging, is it fully charged? And again, it's just a little tiny issue, but I think they can really improve the UX. Another negative if you're used to the PlayStation is when you turn off the PlayStation, you hold the PlayStation button and then you get the choice. Do you want to turn off the machine completely, or do you want to enter into rest mode? Now, I think this choice is great to always see, because if you're downloading something in the background, you want to enter it into rest mode, or if you know that you're going to come back soon, you're going to enter it into rest mode. While if you're not downloading anything, you're maybe going to pick it up the next day, you're going to turn it off completely and save some electricity, not have it in standby mode. On the Xbox, you don't get this choice every time you turn it off. You have to go into a submenu of a submenu under your energy saving settings to decide, do you want the Xbox to be energy saving, to be completely turned off, or do you want to have it on instant on mode, I think, in order to just be able to turn on much more quickly. So you don't get this choice every time, and you have to go into the settings to decide what is the default going to be for your machine. And I think it would just be better if they would do the same thing that PlayStation did, give you the choice to turn it off completely or enter it into standby mode. It's a small UX issue, but I thought it's worth pointing out here because I see, again, no one else doing this comparison. And yeah, I mean, the last few points I wanted to mention is just generally it feels a little bit like a Microsoft product, and then comparing to the experience I've had with Windows and other Microsoft tools in the past. There are some weird UX issues every now and then, and some general flakiness so far, which I hope, again, the flakiness that they can fix with patches going forward. But to mention you a few things that basically aren't fully reliable yet and just cause, an overall bad experience every now and then. I've had issues uploading footage. For example, some of the footage you're seeing here, I took it playing on the machine, and I think a quarter of the footage failed to upload. I don't know why. There's no indication as to why. It just failed. In some cases, it failed to capture it completely. So again, basic things. You push a button to capture footage, you push a button to upload it, and you have a 25% chance of it not working, and you don't know why. I mentioned before the quick resume doesn't always work. Again, it's a great feature feature. You expect it to work, but it doesn't always work, so you can't fully rely on it. There's also been some disk issues every now and then. So I put in a disk which is in perfect condition, no issue on the disk, and the machine wouldn't recognize it. I eject it, I put it back in, and it works. Another really weird issue is when you turn off the machine and you turn off it completely. Around like 30 to 60 seconds after you think the machine is turned off, because there's no signal anymore, the light isn't on anymore, you hear the disk drive spinning up. And I don't know why it does that, but for me it's very weird because we use these plugs, where you turn off the electricity for all the devices connected to it, just for safety and not to use unnecessary electricity. And when the machine is turned off, you kind of expect it to be turned off, but apparently it's not complete. It's still doing something, even a minute after you turned it off, which has me now waiting and not really trusting, is the machine off or is it on? And a final weird thing, when I plugged in my controller for charging and the machine was turned off, so I literally just plugged in the USB to charge because it was in standby mode. I expected that the machine can give energy, to charge the controller overnight. The machine turned on. Like, it recognized that a controller got connected to the machine and the machine turned on, and then the TV turned on and everything. And again, I think it's bad UX. You're probably putting in your controller when the machine is turned off in order for it to charge if it's in standby mode. Maybe, just my subjective opinion. I think it's not the smartest thing to do, but all of these little things add up, and I call it generally just flakiness and bad UX. But with all of that said, keep in mind I'm highlighting really a small detail here. Would I recommend to buy the Series X? Yes, I would. I think it's a great machine. I mentioned a lot of pros in the beginning of this video. I've had a really good experience with it. If you're new to games, especially on the Xbox side, you're gonna have such a great library to play with. Generally good experience playing these games. I just wanted to highlight some of these smaller issues because I see a lot of people not mentioning them, and I don't think they're just subjective to me. I think many others would have these issues too, but I just wanted to get a chance to inform you, how has it been if you're used to PlayStation coming to Xbox? Because again, a lot of the content I see online is of people who have been, on the Xbox One, and maybe they're already used to all of this stuff. I hope these insights have been insightful to you. That's all. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.